Taking you out to Portugal today and checking out a new product that will help podcasters with their podcast and creating not just that original content, but more content to, spread it out into the world, boost your SEO, boost your marketing. Very excited. Chatting with Slobodan Manic, aka Sunny. He is the co-founder of PodPacer. That's the platform we'll be talking about in a little bit. And he is the he is the host, not co-host. He's just a co-founder and he's the host of the No Hacks podcast. Sunny, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks so much, Mathew. That was a wonderful intro, almost like I don't know the person you were talking about, but yeah, it's great to be here. Awesome to be here.
It was wonderful until I got the title wrong, but yeah, it's a Monday.
No, not that part. No, come on.
So you've been in development and you've been working on the web for a long time, but you also have your own podcast. So I'm just curious, let's talk about your foray into podcasting, like what interested you in the space and creating content in the first place. And then we'll talk about what led you to the development of PodPacer.
Yeah. So I started web development in 2007 or 8. I don't even remember. It was a while ago. That's just a fact. The podcast I started in 2021, and most people started their podcast during the pandemic. Like that was the absolute peak was 2020 and 2021. The reason I started it, I wanted to build a personal/professional network, and I thought it's the pandemic. If I don't get them now, when they're not going to conference, the people I studied from, literally, whose courses I was taking and all that stuff, if I don't get them now when they're at home with plenty of time, it might never happen. So I just started reaching out to people whose courses I was taking years prior, and most of them said yes, they want to be on the podcast. And one thing led to another. 4 years later, still going strong, 200 episodes in, and it's a fun journey.
Very nice. I'm curious, and I'm sure some of this is going to lead into what led to the creation of PodPacer. But what were some of your early challenges when you first started podcasting? What were some of the things you were like, oh my God, what am I doing? But you sort of learned from and mastered along the way.
The most painful one was how much of the episode needs to be scripted versus improvised. And there's always that fine line you have to walk between scripted and improvised. The first few were fully scripted. When I say fully scripted, I meant make it seem like it's a dialogue, but it's actually scripted, and that was horrible because I'm not a professional actor or a voice actor or anything like that. So I think a few were not even published. But yeah, that finding the balance between scripted and improvised was a very, very difficult thing for me getting started, because I had no idea the way it was supposed to be done. When the answer really is just try. If it doesn't feel right, try differently. If it doesn't feel right, try differently until you just figure out what feels good to you. Because there's no one answer for every single podcast and podcast, as you know, I'm sure.
I love that. And yes, that's always been my advice. The beauty of podcasting is you can pretty much do whatever you want and, try new things, right? I love people who experiment with the medium and create new formats and, ways of telling stories. So I love that piece of advice. So now you're doing the podcast, and now what was it that led you to start to, plan out and create this platform, PodPacer?
Right. I have a story I love to tell everyone. So, one thing I did last year was I partnered with 2 conferences to interview their speakers, help them promote, all that stuff. And most of those speakers were people I never really met. They're in the same industry I was always covering, but it's just new people. One conference was really about finding new voices and giving them the spotlight. So I had to interview, long story short, 17 people in 34 days while I had a full-time job. And, preparing the interview, researching the guest, having a structured outline, having a list of questions to ask. If you don't, you're just disrespectful to the guest. That's the way I feel. And I didn't want to do that. And I did not have the time to do it properly. So I just, being a semi-retired web developer at the time, I just started talking to ChatGPT, almost like a therapist. And how can we get this done? What are the solutions for this? And once I broke it down, what I wanted and what I needed to create, ChatGPT wrote the whole thing. I built the prototype myself, and the most basic idea was I have a guest bio, I have some of their previous interviews or article they wrote or LinkedIn post or whatever it is. I need to feed that into the machine, and I need to tell the brain, the AI, what the outline template is like, which section I have, with how many questions, how long it is, all that stuff. and it just gives me an outline with the right questions to ask at the right time. That simple. That was like the first working prototype of PodPacer, and it did help me get through those 17 interviews in 34 days. Because if I had to research I would either just show up and say, "Hey, tell me about yourself." And when you listen to a podcast episode and the host only says, "Why don't you explain me who you are?" Well, you're kind of winging it. So I wanted to have good questions for my guest. I wanted to show respect to my guest, and that's why I built that first version of the tool. This was summer last year.
All right. So the idea with PodPacer is you feed it your show, right? You feed it what you want to do, and it can help you not just with planning your episodes, but then also with promoting your content beyond just the standard, title show notes that we have to use when we're uploading this to our podcast hosting site, right?
I love that you said have to use, like the emphasis on have to, because everyone hates writing those show notes. I mean, not hate, maybe a harsh word, but no one loves writing.
Most of us loathe the process. You're right.
Let's be honest. Yes. So yes, this is a feature we added a few months ago, where essentially once your episode is out, because when you create an account with PodPacer, you can enter your RSS feed, and then we know every time you have a new episode. Basically, we transcribe the episode, and based on that episode and based on what the podcast is about and what everything we know about the podcast, we write like 20, 30 different content units: a blog post, a LinkedIn post, a newsletter snippet, show notes, all that stuff. It happens automatically. The tool PodPacer will transcribe the episode and then write all of it. And the beauty of it is, because AI can never do your tone of voice, all that stuff. Well, if it's learning literally from your voice, yes, it can. It knows the way you speak, and it can write show notes the way you would speak those show notes during an episode. So it saves a lot of time. That's really what it is. Something we added a few weeks ago is you can create your own custom types of content. So let's say you want to have an Instagram caption or whatever else. You can just say, "Hey, I want you to also create this and this and this and this. Here are some good examples of what that should look like." You just copy in some good content pieces that are in that format, and then every time it processes an episode, it will create whatever you want it to create, and you can just use it.
How do you get it to really know our voice and what our typical tone is? And then also, how do we know if that's effective, right? Like, yes, this sounds like me. I am not very good at marketing though. So how do we reconcile those two things of trying to have it match, but also have it be effective?
That's an excellent question. And yes, everyone thinks that's the thing with AI. Even if it gets your tone of voice, maybe you don't like your tone of voice. Like, this is basically what you're saying, and you think it should be different. The only way to know is to check and make sure it is. But what we have is a follow-up feature. So if it writes, let's say, a LinkedIn post, you can say, "Hey, I like this and this and this, but can you change this?" And then we'll rewrite it. It will try again, and we'll get closer to what you want. So how do you know what's going to work? Well, you don't. But if it can analyze a full transcript of 30 or 60 minutes of you talking, it will know the way you talk, essentially. And that way it's closer than just going to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, this is a transcript, write a blog post or write a LinkedIn post." And then it's going to be sounding the same way that every single ChatGPT created content sounds, unless you give it specific prompts, which is basically what we do. We have specific, very accurate prompts to create those pieces of content.
What are some of the prompts that you think are the most effective? Like, right, anybody can go to ChatGPT and say, "Make me show notes, make me a LinkedIn post," right? Like that part is right. Anybody can do that. A monkey can do that. What are the types of prompts, or what is the type of language that we should be using in order to make these actually effective, though?
So I'm going to give you almost a cop-out answer, but just bear with me. It's a good answer, because this is when I changed the way I prompt to this, it kind of transformed everything for me. When you want ChatGPT to write something for you, let's say you want it to write, don't say, "I want you to write a blog post." Just ask, "Hey, if I wanted you to write a blog post for me, what are the details you want me to have in my prompt to help you create the best possible output?" And they will come up with a list of like 5 to 10 questions usually. And if you just write your prompt based on that, so have ChatGPT help you write the prompt, you don't need any more help than that.
So you're actually asking
Yes,
ChatGPT how to use ChatGPT.
100%. Because who knows better than ChatGPT? Yes, yes.
Wow.
It's transformed. It just completely changes the way you think about ChatGPT. And instead of looking at it as a black box, as almost like an employee that you say, hey, process this and give it back when it's done, it's more of a copilot where you go back and forth and you ask ChatGPT, if I want to use this feature of you, what are the instructions for me? How do I use that feature? So we're just guessing. Like, if I want to write myself a blog post without this process, how do I know it's good, that prompt? But if I ask ChatGPT, like, it will tell me, hey, how long is it? Who is the audience? What are you trying to achieve? What is the tone? And sure, you can write all of that in your prompt without ChatGPT helping you, but it's so much easier when you have a list to go through and then simply instruct ChatGPT what to do.
So when it comes to the episode planning, because I'm sure there are lots of people out there who are using programs like this to plan their episodes as well as to help promote them after the fact. But you were talking about feeding the machine information about your guest and maybe past episodes, maybe things they've written. How much of that do we have to do versus how much of that are you basically asking the AI to do for you?
So the feeding of the AI is something that the user has to do, and this is by choice. And this is, we don't, remember the notebook LM thing where you just click and there's a podcast coming out. It was a hot thing in November. I hate it. So this is the opposite of that. This is where PodPacer is basically an assistant for those who don't have research assistants. So you find your previous 3 episodes about the topic you're covering or where your guest was on previously, and you just feed that. PodPacer will transcribe them, process, and extract talking points and questions to ask your guests. So this is not a self-driving car. This will never be a self-driving car. I hate the idea of a podcast being fully AI generated. And I can get into that. I don't think we have enough time for me to talk about how much I hate that as a concept, because if the person putting it out didn't listen to it, why would anyone listen to it? This is an assistant that helps you with the research, that will help you when you have a guest say, hey, remember 6 months ago you were on that podcast and you talked about this concept. Can we explore that a little bit deeper? That's what PodPacer is trying to achieve, and not automate and like fully AI. I don't like that at all.
So take us through your show and what has been the difference in performance before you started using AI and specifically PodPacer versus what it's looking like today.
So it's not scientific, but I don't have you need a lot more data to be statistically significant and all that. But when I started using PodPacer, this was season 2 of my podcast, was from September to December last year. This is when I really started. I had 10 guests, and 8 guests afterwards have sent me an email to say the questions were amazing, without me telling them what it is, without me telling them anything. So for me, that's significantly more than ever before, because I was never before able to go through 3 hours of audio or video, whatever my guest was talking about previously, and have the best possible questions. This will help you get to that point. And when you have a guest and their eyes light up, and because you ask them something and they go, how did you know that, man? That feeling as a podcaster is just precious.
All right. So it's definitely anecdotally helped you be a better podcaster. What about on the flip side? Have you seen any metrics or any actual gains in your numbers that, really reinforce that what you're doing here is working?
I think it's made it significantly easier for my guests to share the materials from the podcast, because if they feel like you really treated them well, it's more likely. Again, this is anecdotal. It's several dozens of episodes.
Your
that I've done with the tool.
experience.
Yes, from my
Yeah.
experience, it is significantly easier to connect with your guest on a deeper level if the questions are really, really something that they like talking about, that they have talked about in the past, that you can get into a deeper conversation over. And that will make the guest promoting the episode much easier. And we all know how important that is. If you have a guest, like you have a great guest, and they don't even share the episode when you're done, it's not amazing.
Yeah, it is always very frustrating when you put your heart and soul into something and you're really excited because you grab that big name guest and you put it out there and then it's crickets from the guest and it's like they forgot about you altogether, even though oftentimes they promise you the moon and the stars and everything else.
And
Well, if you're
life just
curious,
happens. I wouldn't blame the like they just forget about it, like you said.
oh yeah, right. Like, and often you interview someone and maybe that interview doesn't air for a few weeks or in some cases a few months, right? Like it's not always their fault. Although in some cases it's just a matter of, this wasn't that interesting to me, and so they didn't promote it the way that you wanted them to, or whatever the reasons might be. But so maybe this will help you with getting those big name guests to be impressed by you and to actually go out and start sharing what it is that you're doing. Well, as a reminder, you should definitely go and check out podpacer.com. They have a 7-day free trial, but they have 3 plans you can sign up for. Put your show in there, test it out, take it for a spin, see what you like about it. And then, let Sonny know what you think and how it works, and give them some feedback, because I'm sure they're always looking for ways to improve it. As a reminder, we are chatting with Slobodan Sonny Manic. He is the co-founder of PodPacer and the host of the No Hacks podcast. Sonny, before we let you go, there's questions that we like to ask every podcaster come on the show, and I'll be curious to get your take on it, coming from your background of software development and really kind of deep diving into this. And that question is there something in podcasting where you would like to see even more improvement? Could it be from recording, production, distribution, discoverability, listening, right? Like anywhere from the podcaster to podcast consumer standpoint where you're like, man, this is the next issue I want to tackle.
So I was worried I would not have a good answer because of the way questions started, but improve your workflows, people. As podcasters, we are sort of the almost like an analog, old school kind of industry, like radio style interviews, all that stuff. There's so much room for improvements, and using AI not to replace the creativity, but to replace the boring parts. And I don't mean just PodPacer that can help you with some parts of it, but improve. Just document your workflow with every single episode, and take a pen, pencil, type it out, whatever you want, and just mark the parts that can be automated. That without even paying for an assistant, that can be automated with simple workflows like make.com or Zapier or whatever. Let's say you record, and when the recording is done, you want to email your guest automatically to thank them. You can set that up. That can be easily done, easily automated. And we never do that. Like no one ever emails their guest unless they do it in the next hour. So why not set up an automation for that? Why not set up an automation? And this is easy to set up. I'll be posting a lot about this on my LinkedIn in the future. Set up an automation that transcribes the interview, analyzes it, and then writes a simple draft of an email to thank the guest. Find like key moments and whatever. Put it in your draft folder automatically. You review it at the end of the day, change whatever you want to change, and send that email. It's that easy. It's super easy.
The important step there is that you have to review it, right? You can't.
Always. I don't trust AI. I will never trust AI blindly. I hope no one ever does. Yes. And I have an AI based product. And I just said that.
No, I love that honesty, and I love that. That's really, really solid advice for people. I think there is a line between using AI and relying or abusing AI that obviously there's a lot of the latter going on in the world today, and when it happens, it's very obvious, and it's going to make you look kind of silly. On the tech stack, is there some service or piece of equipment that either you've seen out there that you're like, oh, I got to get my hands on it, or you're like, man, I wish somebody would make this, that would make, again, any aspect of podcasting easier, more convenient for
Right.
you?
I wish someone would, and this is, PodPacer is not this, it might be in the future. I don't know if you use Descript for editing or anything like that. They have that underlord feature that helps you write, kind of helps you. It's bad. It's really, really bad at writing the content and all that. It's good when it's good, but it's horrible when it's bad. I wish someone would create something like that has your entire podcast as its knowledge base. So if it's writing a social snippet for this episode, I wanted to know which 5 episodes or 3 episodes in the past it can refer to. I don't think episode as one content piece is something that you can get great results with. It needs to know the background of your podcast, the previous episodes, the description of the podcast, all that stuff, and take that into account. We're trying to build something like that with PodPacer. It's not quite there yet, but I wish there was a sort of like a ChatGPT specifically for your podcast.
You say that, and I'm pretty sure we talked to somebody who was trying to work on that, or I've seen some platforms that are kind of delving into that space of analyzing your entire library to give you, enhanced understanding and analytics and right, like discover your voice and things like that. So I got to go back and remember what it was, but I've definitely heard that before, and I'm pretty sure there are some folks who are thinking about that, and making moves in that space. And then, of course, the question we ask everybody is, what are some podcasts that you are listening to right now that you will, that you will not let a new episode go by without?
There are two, and they have nothing to do with my work. They have nothing to do. One is Bad Friends. It's a comedy podcast. It's like one of the top 20, 30 podcasts in the world, week to week, depending on the week. It's two comedians that should not be working together as a co-host, but it just works. The chemistry is just unreal. So Bad Friends with Andrew Santino and Bobby Lee. The other one is Behind the Bastards. I'm a sucker for side stories in history. So they cover historical profile, like bad people in the history who people don't know enough about. So that and let's say the third one, The Real Dictators, which it's a great narrative podcast that I hope everyone checks out. So those three are. Also, I only listen to podcasts when I run, and those are just the perfect length for my long runs. So that's why.
I notice there's a little bit of a theme in the kind of stuff you listen to. Should we be worried?
I mean, Bad Friends. That's why I opened and why I led with Bad Friends and then went to the other two. But yeah, I don't like alternative history or conspiracies and all that, but I like the lesser known side of history. Let's put it that way.
Very interesting. I might have a couple suggestions for you that I'll tell you off air after.
I would love to hear that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I can't remember them, so I'm going to look them up while we're chatting. But as a reminder to everybody, please check out podpacer.com. Check out the No Hacks podcast. And as Sonny was mentioning, he's going to be putting a lot more stuff on LinkedIn. We'll have a link to his LinkedIn profile here in the show notes so you can connect and follow with him. We have been chatting with Slobodan Manic, a.k.a. Sonny. It's been a pleasure, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure, Matthew. Thank you so much.